Hey kids, welcome to another cooking lesson. Sometimes you see this piece of equipment in the back, this old machine, and you may be wondering what it's for. It's for Paul to make his homemade puff pastry, which is a very special skill. So he puts great big sheets of puff pastry through that machine to make the pie. So if you wonder how he does it, go on Paul, show them.
So I've already put, a little bit in the bottom, obviously the beef cheek pie filling, and then the puff pastry goes on top. I'll just egg wash that so it will stick. I'll just press that down.
See, it looks like a flower.
Now when I bake that puff pastry is going to shrink in to
and rise.
Yep. So, and that's it. Made
and
today.
When he gets out of here, we can continue, all right? Today we're going to do eggplant parmigiana because a lot of people have asked me to make a chicken parmigiana, but I prefer eggplant parmigiana because it's vegetarian and I think it's very juicy, full of flavor. You should learn how to do it because it's so simple and it's something you can keep with you when you go off to the city to study or you go somewhere else to work and you want a quick meal. This is a smart way to eat. Okay, Paul, get out of my way. Eggplants are very, very special in the kitchen. They're versatile. There are thousands of uses to it. A lot of people don't know what to do. Let's start with a very simple, basic, old-fashioned recipe, eggplant parmigiana. What it means is the eggplant is being cooked with tomato and with cheese, mozzarella cheese and Parmesan cheese. So instead of having a chicken schnitzel underneath, you're having a concoction of eggplant, cheese, tomato, and it's baked, possibly in 2 or 3 layers, in something like this or any baking dish. It doesn't matter. I just quite like this because it's rustic and simple and nice to look at. So to begin with, you slice the eggplants in small shapes like this, small slices, not too big, so easy to fry. Now, eggplant contains quite a lot of water. Probably, it's more than 70% water. So when you fry with something that has water, it can get a bit tricky. So best thing is to put it on a colander or a perforated tray. Now in the kitchen we have these trays, but at home you probably have a colander where you pour the pasta into to drain the water away, something like that. And you give it a slight sprinkle of salt, and then you put a weight on it. Like here, just to make the demonstration, I did this and I put it over the sink to drip. I was looking for something with a bit of weight and I found a pumpkin and I said, that pumpkin or cans or bricks, whatever you have, just leave it there for a couple of hours and you see quite a lot of water going away. Naturally, here you have an option. You can sprinkle some flour over it, so you seal, if you like, the eggplant slices, and it'll be easy to fry and it'll be quite golden. But there are people who are allergic to flour, so you don't really have to. It works just the same. It's more likely that this will absorb a little bit more oil than you would like. But there is a trick to that as well, because when you bake it, you wait for a little bit until it settles and it cools somewhat, and then you gently tilt the excess oil out of the baking dish. So there are little tricks like that. That's why it's important, however, that you fry in good oil, in good extra virgin olive oil. So if you ingest a bit more than you should, at least you know it's good oil. So I've got a pan going here, getting hot, and I'll work in little batches like this. I'll just do a few. See this? See the water? You probably won't see with this camera, but there's quite a bit of liquid, so you pat it dry with a cloth or kitchen paper like that. And you don't want to fry too many at once because it's hard to control. So I'm being a bit pedantic here. Probably I would just dip it in the flour and go in, but let's just to make sure that the coating of flour is not too heavy. I do it like this, and then I turn it over very quickly before it turns to glue, because as I said, the eggplants are still a little wet, and as soon as the oil is hot, we can start frying. Try to use something long or a slotted spoons if you don't a slotted spoon if you don't have one of these. So try not to burn yourself. You know, frying is always fraught with dangers, and don't try to hasten the process. You know, especially with so little flour, you just want to make sure you sear everything well. Okay, I've got another batch ready to go here. So as soon as I extract that, I continue. You don't want to have too long a gap between one batch and the next, because sometimes the flour drops to the bottom, especially if you don't control the temperature, and then it burns, and then it's not a good thing. So try to work, you know, fast but steady, avoid danger, and probably for this small vessel here, 1 to 6 and 6 a dozen slices, more than enough. And this will give you 2 big serves or 3 entrees, and it's just wonderful with a little salad on the side, with a little bit of lemon juice in the salad to cut the fat. Now remember, you've got to eat your greens, and there's nothing more fantastic than getting, you know, 2 slices of bread. This one, after it's baked, it goes cold, you put it in the bread, put through 2 or 3 slices of good lettuces, and yum, you've got all the good things you need. You can see through the gaps, you probably can't, but I can see that it's changing color. You can see it from one side to the next. Another minute or so, and then we'll save it from the oil, and then we'll be ready to put it all together. And of course, you know, it will be baked. It doesn't take long to bake because everything is already cooked. You're really basically integrating all those flavors and making them very juicy. And I have, for the tomato, can you believe it? I had saved and frozen some of the batch of tomatoes we did the first time. And that just goes to show how things connect to one another. You make the tomatoes when you've got plenty, you can freeze them, you feel like a palmy, an eggplant palmy in the middle of winter, pull it out, bingo, it's ready. So I'll extract these now, take them out from their personal inferno, try to keep the temperature steady. See, there's no precipitation of flour at the bottom, which can make things very messy, smoky, dirty. And the cleaner you keep your oil, when it gets cold, you can decant it, and then you are able to use it again by adding a quantity of fresh stuff. But it's always best, in my opinion, to use, use fresh oil. It's a bit expensive, but it's worth it. You're worth it. So now we can start putting together our eggplant parmigiana, melanzane parmigiana. So always put a little bit of tomato on the bottom. And then you put a first layer down. Sometimes to make it fit, you may split it in, 2 parts. There you go. So that's a bottom layer. Then the Parmigiano, from which Parmigiana takes its name. I won't put salt because I know that the eggplants are sufficiently salty. A little bit of the mozzarella, which is what makes it gooey and cheesy. So really it's a festival of cheese. Don't overdo it. Here I have some pesto. This is a sauce made with basil and pine nuts or almonds, because it's hard to get good pine nuts, but we grow a lot of almonds here. A bit of garlic, and olive oil. In this one there is no cheese, because I always use cheese in other things. It's got a lovely fresh taste of basil. Don't buy, if you can, don't go and buy, do without. If you have to go and buy a jar of pesto, please don't, unless you know who's made it and that it is homemade and made with good oil and not with all the preservatives that makes it industrial rather than real. Probably I'm a little heavy-handed there, but I like it so much. And then again some tomato. It's a bit like making an egg. It's a bit like making a lasagna. Instead of sheet, you're using eggplant. Ah,
Looks like both ready there.
looks like fun here. Look at that. Look at that. Congratulations, Paul. Look at that beautiful homemade pie with homemade puff pastry. And it's cooked right through. Look at the perfect even cooking and that lovely crust at the top. Listen to the sound. And this has got beef cheeks. Look at that. Beautiful. Beef cheeks. So in fact, it's what it says. The cheek of an ox, which gets cooked slowly for 2-3 hours, and it gives you a dense sauce. You break it down like that so you don't have too much liquid in the pie. And this is all meat and veggies, not flour. Like most commercial pies, they're pumped with flour, fat, and God knows what. Cheers. Repeat. That's why you don't want to go too heavy, because if you go too heavy, then all you get is a mouthful of cheese. A little bit more tomato. This will spread in the cookie. There's enough pesto there for the complete dish, and same again, and this is now ready for the oven. Of course, if you make a big tray, I would suggest you put some baking paper on top and make sure it's cooked, and then you pull out the baking paper. But a small amount like this, it'll spread evenly and it's ready to go. Now ready for the oven at 180 for 10-15 minutes or so. Okay? See you shortly. And here it is. Your eggplant parmigiana. Look at all the pretty colors. The tomato, a little bit of burny. I said cover it, but I prefer to have a little bit of a crust. The parmigiano, the mozzarella. This will just be very yummy. It's better when it cools a little bit. But look at that. Stunning. Nice and hot. And when this goes cold, you can also put it in between two beautiful slices of bread, and you'll be looking very different at school and very proud of your achievement. See you next week.